Hello, fellow writers. It is Professor Malat with your weekly overview. This week we are moving into week 5. We have learned a little bit about rhetoric, rhetorical appeals, the rhetorical situation, and now this week we're going to look a little bit more closely to the rhetorical analysis essay. This is the second essay, the second formal longer writing assignment that you have in this course. Um, and so I have a handout that I will walk through with you and explain some of the organization of this example essay that I have chosen for you to read. Um, so this week, as I said, we are looking at the example essay in its analysis of an advertisement. It's actually an analysis of a print advertisement or a still ad, not a commercial. But you can still use the same approach in this type of advertisement as you would with a commercial. There are just different things that you would emphasize and look at in your analysis as opposed to when you're analyzing a video commercial. So this week you're going to begin drafting, right? Yeah, had to double check that. You're going to begin drafting the rhetorical analysis essay. You're going to learn a little bit more about peer review in the following week. And then in addition to submitting your draft by the due date, you'll be required to review a peer's draft next week by the date indicated so that there is time left for revision. And I have a note at the bottom of the page. I'm just familiarizing myself with the material once again as I record this. So this week, we're going to talk a bit about the 5 modes of multimodality. You're going to learn about that. Discuss the use of multimodality in advertising. Learn about the basics of rhetorical analysis. Reflect upon rhetoric in everyday communication. Analyze rhetorical effectiveness of a given text. Compose a draft analyzing the rhetorical choices made in an advertisement. And we will also learn a bit more about MLA style and format. In my feedback to your first paper, the literacy narrative, I didn't expect everything to be perfect right off the bat, right? But now you've had a little bit of an opportunity to go through the drafting process and to get my feedback and to make revisions based on the feedback that I provided for you. And for some of you, it was a formatting issue. So we will go through the formatting guidelines, and that's part of your reading. And I also have a couple of links for videos that are suggested for you if you're still not wrapping your mind around how to format an academic essay in MLA format. So for your reading this week, we are focusing yet again on comma usage. So there is a reading for conjunctions and lists. We have conjunctions, and we have a wonderful little acronym to help us remember the most commonly used coordinating conjunctions called fanboys. Fanboys stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Fanboys. So those are the 7 most commonly used conjunctions. And when you have that, you know that somewhere there needs to be a period. Not always, but if you go through the readings, it will explain to you when you are supposed to use a comma. Also in lists, we use commas, and then there's a reading for comma overuse. Those are both from the University of Mississippi Ret Lab. I have 2 other readings that go into mode and modalities. This is kind of interesting, and I like this reading because most of you will be choosing a video commercial, an advertisement that is not a still ad. So we have 5 different modes. We have the visual, the oral, that has to do with hearing, gestural, which is moving in time and space, facial expressions, hand gestures, body language, so on and so forth. Linguistic or alphabetic, that's typically text, written or spoken word, as well as spatial. So it's a good reading and it will apply to the various things that you can pay attention to, but also analyze for your chosen advertisement. So please make sure that you read the information on modes. Um, there's also a reading on the analytic thesis. So our first paper, you were working on a narrative, so we didn't really focus too much on thesis statements, but now we're going to work in and learn a little bit more about thesis statements. So this reading here discusses the types of things you need to remember, right? There are three words or phrases that you should remember when you are constructing an analytic thesis statement for an essay. How, why, and so what? Your thesis statement should answer those questions. How is something done? Why is it done? And so what? Why does it matter, right? If you can answer those questions in your thesis statement, um, you're going in the right direction. So this is a very helpful reading. There are some key takeaways. So make sure that you read that as well. So we will get to the meat of the readings here. I have an example rhetorical analysis essay. That example essay is actually taken from a book that is printed every few years by the UC English department at the main campus in Clifton, in Cincinnati, Ohio. And every few years they pull several student examples to use in this book. It's a student guidebook. I do not require it as reading because I really don't want you having to go out and purchase a text. But this is handy for me as an instructor because it can provide you with some example writing from actual UC students. So this student was doing this essay back in 2014. I know it's many years ago, 10 years, holy cow. uh, but this is a good example of how you can go about organizing a rhetorical analysis essay. This essay is slightly longer than I think your essay needs to be. We get to just 5 pages, so I think I have you writing 3 to 4 pages, maybe 4-ish pages, 800 to 1,000 words. So not too much longer than what you would have to write in our class. So things I want you to pay attention to are how the student writes their introduction. They start with a hook that's kind of general, right? Advertisements in today's society seek to convince or persuade an audience to purchase a certain product, right? So we have kind of a hook there. They give a little background information there. Then they talk a little bit about the various rhetorical appeals that they will be discussing. And then they also include the name of the advertisement that is under examination in the analysis essay. In CoverGirl's Nature Lux Silk Foundation advertisement with Taylor Swift, these four elements work to sell this product, but also create a contradiction in the idea of naturalness through artificial makeup. So the thesis statement here is actually these two sentences. Sometimes students are mistaken and they think that the thesis statement is either the whole introduction. No, it isn't. Or you cram as much information as possible into one sentence. However, it is perfectly acceptable to have your thesis be 1 to 2 sentences. If you cannot get it done effectively in one sentence, then it's perfectly acceptable to have 2 sentences. So here in the first body paragraph, so we can see already, let me backtrack a little bit. We can see already that we know these are the things that this student is going to discuss in their body paragraphs: ethos, pathos, logos, kairos. Kairos is a rhetorical appeal that we haven't discussed in this class. If you're able to wrap your mind around it and you read things elsewhere about kairos, you're more than welcome to use that as part of your analysis. Simply put, kairos is more or less just timeliness of the situation. It's really kind of hard to expand that. I don't want to go totally in depth because that's something that you'll actually learn as you go into English 1001. So, the first paragraph here we can see probably is going to be ethos, right? And they start with a topic sentence that discusses the use of a celebrity. CoverGirl is introducing Taylor Swift as the face of their new product, blah, 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 right? So they talk all about Taylor Swift. Um, they describe the ad. Actually, this isn't so much about ethos, but it's more about describing the ad. It could be a little bit of a summary. That's always a good suggestion to start with some background or some summary information so that your audience understands the ad that you are discussing because they're not actually looking at it while they're reading your paper. Um, so the student goes and provides some description of the ad and then moves into talking about ethos. Taylor Swift is the ethical appeal of the advertisement, so on and so forth. They provide some evidence from the ad and from Taylor Swift, and then the next paragraph they are moving to I think logos. Is that right? Ethos, pathos, pathos. So it's moving to pathos. Um, so in this particular ad, the main idea that CoverGirl wants to illustrate is this new idea of being completely natural while feeling natural, as they said, quote, a breath of fresh air. However, um, naturalness doesn't bring foundation and makeup in general, doesn't bring it to mind in general. So they are making a case for the pathos uh, that nope, I think it's logos. Either way, then the following paragraph is logos, right? The audience, they are telling their audience a factual message about the product, and they once again use examples from the fine print on the advertisement. Then this short paragraph is talking about Kairos. The advertisement came out in January 2011. At the same time, Taylor Swift had just released and was touring for her new album. So they talk about that. And then they wrap things up um, by kind of hitting the highlights again and making some kind of an evaluation on the ad, right? They're saying, um, though Taylor Swift seems to be generally come across as a fake and dolled up girl, the audience and buyers of the product disregard her true image. CoverGirl effectively chose the right person, so they make some kind of a judgment. And here at the bottom, you can see the publication information if you need access to a different format of this essay. So there we have um, the example essay, which will help you as far as give you some kind of an idea of the types of things that we tend to look at in a rhetorical analysis. Um, I also have provided the CoverGirl ad, which you will see. This is the ad that the student was actually writing about so that you can see the actual visual of it and read um, the fine print and see the picture of the product itself. So that's an example of how you can write a rhetorical analysis of a still ad. Then the last thing I have in your list of readings is the MLA format guidelines. This is from Purdue OWL. Again, it just walks you through how the paper should be formatted. Type your paper on a computer and print it out on standard white 8.5 by 11-inch paper. Of course, we're doing things virtually, so that doesn't really matter. It's assumed that your writing will be in 8.5 by 11 format. Double space the text of your paper and use a legible font. Typically, we use a font size of 12 points. It does not have to be Times New Roman. it's more than welcome to be Times New Roman, but it shouldn't be anything out of the ordinary. It should be easy to read. MLA recommends that the regular and italic types contrast enough so that they're distinct from one another. Um, Margins should be set to 1 inch on all side. Formatting the first page of your paper, you can read through all of this stuff. I'm not going to read through all of it. And then here is what uh, a typical MLA style first page of a paper. You have the header with the student's last name and a page number. And then you have a heading that includes both the first and last name of the student, the name of the professor, the title of the course, along with the course number, and the date. The date format is typically done this way. And then you will see every essay should have a title, and it should be something more than literary narrative or literacy narrative or rhetorical analysis rough draft. It should be something interesting that gives the reader an idea of what your paper is going to be about. Section headings we typically don't use in the short writing that we are doing for this course. In a longer research paper, something that might be 10 to 20 pages long, you might want to use subject headings, but for this class, we won't be using those. So you don't need to read through that information. If you also want to look at a sample paper, you can come over to the left-hand side here and choose MLA sample paper. And again, it breaks things down for you and explains just how everything is done. So that's the formatting stuff. And then the videos this week, we have this video that you're currently watching, the week 5 overview. I also have a short lecture that introduces rhetorical analysis and talks about what rhetorical analysis is, what we're hoping to achieve with this assignment. I also have a couple of recommended videos that deal with formatting. I have one recorded for formatting in Microsoft Word, and then one for formatting in Google Docs. A reminder, if you are composing in Google Docs or if you're using Microsoft Word in the online version that you get free through UC, it's important to note that you cannot upload those links and share the papers through Canvas. Canvas just won't accept those formats, right? What you need to do instead is to make sure that you download or save the document to your computer with a unique title, right, with a unique file name, and then you can save it as a Microsoft Word. Sorry about that with my phone. Save it as a Microsoft Word doc or docx file, or as a PDF file, and then you can upload that file into the Canvas system. As I said before, Canvas doesn't play nicely with Google Docs, and it doesn't like the shared file format, which is why some of you may have had some difficulty trying to get your file uploaded to the system. Also, to keep in mind, if you should ever run into some kind of problem where Canvas is just kind of being wacky and not accepting things, and you want to get an assignment in, you can always email it to me as an attached file to an email. That is not a problem. Again, don't share the file link with me. Don't try to share your Word doc or your Google Doc, because typically that will necessitate that I get permission from you, and that's just more work for me than I should have to do. So if you have any questions about those, these 2 videos cover it all as far as formatting and how to save as a PDF and that kind of stuff. So the assignments. Yay, we finally get to the assignments. This week is grammar quiz number 5. That is dealing with commas. We have a discussion board assignment, multimodality in advertising. So this is to kind of get you used to using some of the terminology and thinking about the various things that you need to pay attention to. This is a still ad. It was created by the CDC. And as you study the ad, think about the various modes that are being used, right? We have visual modes, we have with the words, we have the linguistic or alphabetic mode. So pay attention to the written words, the visual elements. It doesn't have audio elements, it doesn't have movement, but if this advertisement were to be made into a video, into a commercial that you see, a public service announcement that you see on YouTube or on, whatever streaming platform you happen to be watching, think about the audio elements. What are the types of sounds you might hear in the scene, right? You can imagine, use your imagination and think about the various types of sounds you might hear if this were to be made into a commercial, right? Would there be music? Would there be a narrator speaking? Would there be sounds from the child in the picture? You get the idea. Likewise with movement, if this image suddenly became a commercial, what movements might you see? Um, and then, of course, think about the expressions and the gestures that are captured in this still photograph. Um, this gives you an idea of the various types of things to pay attention to and things that you might want to pay attention to in your commercial as you begin your rough draft. I'm writing about it. Um, so the initial post is due, let me check to see if June 11th, the dates are not right. I will change those dates. That's from last year. I will correct those dates. So the initial post is due Sunday, the 8th. No, Sunday the 9th. And then your responses will be due the following Wednesday. So I will update those dates. As always, go by the due dates that are within Canvas on the weekly module page and within the assignment itself, right? Then essay number 2. This is the the biggie, right? We get to the rough draft assignment for the rhetorical analysis. So you have hopefully read the prompt, Who Are We, in the book, The Writer's Practice. And now you're going to think about writing an essay of about 3 to 4 pages, roughly 800 to 1,000 words. Let's go by the word count instead of the page count, in which you examine not only the quote unquote text of an advertisement, but also quote unquote the subtext, what's really being sold besides the product, right? I've provided an outline below that will help you. So, of course, you're going to start with an introduction. Make sure that you are letting your reader know the context of the ad, name of the company or the product, and of course, your thesis statement. In your body paragraphs, you're going to have a paragraph where you spend some time describing the ad in some greater detail so your audience knows and can at least picture somewhat what's going on in the advertisement without relying on having to watch a video. If there's background information that you need, of course, you'll provide that in the paragraph. You will explain the context and target audience. So you might have a whole separate paragraph talking about the type of audience or the context. Where was the ad published? Who is the audience? Show the reader how the components of the ad are designed to target the audience and what are the values of the audience. And then you're going to spend several paragraphs focusing on the various rhetorical strategies. So that could be the appeals, the rhetorical appeals, appealing to the emotion, logic, and credibility, even timeliness. How many of those approaches are used? Anything dealing with deliberate style or structure, the use of evidence, word choice, the use of repetition. I spoke about this in my introduction to the rhetorical analysis unit. use of images or audio, color, typography, pacing, so on and so forth. You get the idea. And then in your conclusion, you have a recap and discuss the cultural implications or ideas. Again, we have the reminders for submission details. If you need reminders for how to format your paper, we have the format guidelines here, as well as that sample paper that I showed you earlier in this video. And the reminder about how to save your document as a Word doc or PDF, how to download it, save it, and then upload it into Canvas. Although this is a rough draft, and I have to stress this because some of you simply did not provide a rough draft, thinking that because it's worth 0 points, uh, it's not necessary to do. However, the rough draft is a required assignment. I don't like to place a grade on a rough draft because that's a work in progress. I do, however, give you extensive feedback. So if you fail to submit a rough draft, you are missing out on the opportunity to get feedback from me. And of course, with this assignment, that means you also will be missing out on the opportunity to provide some feedback for a peer during peer review. So although this rough draft's not worth any points, it is marked on a complete and incomplete basis. So you must submit a rough draft prior to being assigned a draft to review for peer review. Those all will contribute to your final grade. So if you don't submit a draft in the revision portion, you will miss out on the peer reviewed aspect as well as the rest of the feedback. So what I'm looking for in this rough draft, again, we will be focusing on the introduction, the thesis, and the conclusion. This is the rubric for the assignment. Some kind of addressing of the rhetorical situation and including the rhetorical appeals. I'll also be looking at how you organize that information. Do the paragraphs flow in a logical manner? I also am looking for audience awareness. I want to make sure that you engage the audience throughout the paper. And then, of course, looking at language use and mechanics. So things like editing, spelling, grammar, word order, word usage, sentence structure, punctuation, good use of academic English. Those are all things that contribute to a very good and solid paper. So that is the rhetorical analysis rough draft. And again, I have below a reminder with a link to the peer review assignment that comes up next week. So it's really important that you submit your rough draft. Here we have a peer review. It will be done on the discussion board. It is. So it will be done through the discussion board. I will have instructions, of course, that is further on down the road. So in the following week. So we'll go over the directions for that next week. So if you have any questions for me, if you're confused by anything, please make sure that you email me. Also, a reminder, we do have tutoring available through the Learning Commons at UC Claremont. So if you need to get in touch with a tutor, I encourage you to reach out to them. They're able to work with you virtually and spend additional time. That's what they get paid to do. I get paid to teach and provide feedback, but I don't have enough time to devote to every single student who needs the extra help. I'm happy to meet with you and work on some things. If you want to do a Zoom call or something like that, I'm happy to do that. But do keep in mind that it's tournament season for baseball, and these tournaments are starting sometimes on Wednesday. This week it starts on Wednesday. Next week I'm going to be out of town traveling with my son from Tuesday through Sunday. So it's going to be kind of crazy for me, but that's okay. I can still work with you even at a distance. I have Zoom on my phone. I have my laptop that will be coming with me. So it's not that I'm inaccessible. I'm around. I just don't have any set hours. So it's really important. If you want to talk to me and you want to do a meeting with me, you need to reach out, email me, give me 24 hours heads up. That's a courtesy just because the summer, as I said before, is kind of crazy. But I will do everything I can to accommodate you. And if I don't work, if my times don't work for you, of course, you can reach out to a Learning Center tutor, and they'll be able to work with you at some kind of time. And they use various formats. It doesn't have to be face to face on Zoom. It can be just solely through email if that's what you're more comfortable with. Um, so I encourage you to do that. The tutors are there for a reason. They're there to help you, and it's free to students. So why not take advantage of it, right? Okay, take care, everybody, and have a fantastic week. Bye bye.